to the Mindset Michele TV show. We're so super excited for you to be joining us for another amazing episode with another incredible guest. The wonderful guest that we have on the show today is the lovely Jacqui James. Hello, Jacqui.
Hi, Michele. Pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to our chat.
So am I, Jacqui. I'm really excited. I know from what I've read about your background, you'll have some really incredible stuff to share with people. For those that don't know who Jacqui is, she's the owner and founder of J&J, which is a small business solutions architect. She's also very interested in small business systems, automation, CRM, and does some work around virtual assistants or VAs. But rather than me explain more about it, Jacqui, please explain for people how you came to set up J&J and what your background is in supporting small businesses.
Well, thanks, Michele, for the opportunity. My background is in business administration, over 30 years working in the corporate area altogether, and then I started J&J because I didn't want to do a 3-hour commute anymore to work. It's as simple as that. The head office of the corporate company I was working for moved locations. It added an extra half an hour each way onto my travel. They took away the car parking, so we had to catch the train. So I wasn't prepared because my husband is not a well person at the best of times. He has issues. So spending that extra 3 hours away traveling also meant that was 3 hours away from giving him the care that he needed on and off during the day. So that's how J&J all got started. I went in one day, announced I was quitting, didn't think too much about it. And then the day came and I left and took that last train ride home with a gigantic bunch of flowers. And I thought to myself, now I've done it. That was it. Like, I had not thought about that in the month's notice that I gave up until this is it. It's sink or swim. You know, you get so much from when you leave. You get your annual leave payments and things like, but then that's it. So what do you do after that? You have to make the business work. And because I'm a generally tenacious person, I think that's how I did it. That's how I made the business successful for us as a family.
Wow, what an interesting story that, you know, after many years, and I'm sure that there were very many loyal years to your employer and giving quite a lot in that job. I sense that you're a very giving person. But then having that choice, you know, to keep doing the 3-hour commute and missing the precious time with your husband and spending that time and also not having the parking and having to travel by train. It's interesting how these life journeys work, isn't it? How you may still be there if they have made it more complicated for you to be there, and working out how to manage your husband's off while still being there, but instead those extra challenges then were a catalyst for you to leave. And then it's funny because even when you're describing how J&J kind of came about and how it's been successful, it's kind of like, well, I didn't have a choice. I had to make it work, didn't I? So I love this tenacity and determination that you're talking about and showing in your journey to how you then have come to set up a small business process and automation and VA business to support people in a similar way to the years of support that you were doing when you were working for an organisation.
Well, I found that once I had left and started J&J in May of 2011, I learned so much more about myself than I had in the roles that I'd worked at in corporate. I'd been an office manager for one organisation. I'd been an executive assistant to a director of nursing in another. I'd been a quality administrator in a biotech company, and then to finish it all, I was an EA to a director in retail and supported the management board. I had learnt some amazing skills, and it involved everything from project management and all these things that need you to have your game face on all the time, your head clear, because there were so many spinning plates that you had to juggle all the time. But that was nothing compared to what you need to go through to get a different mindset on to run your own business and change your lifestyle, because in corporate, you got the same money every month and you spent it on the same things and you went to the same places, and we rented a home. So there wasn't a lot of opportunity there to save lots of money. So the business, even though in the infancy, did not earn a lot of money, I saw the potential for it to do so. So I had to stop thinking like an employee. And that was the biggest turning point I had. But that didn't happen until several years into the business. That was a huge learning curve.
I really hear that change in mindset, that there's nothing to drive that home than not getting that regular paycheck, isn't there? The difference between when you know you've got a certain amount of money coming in, it will pay those bills, to you don't know when money's coming in and you need to be, in a sense, selling more programs and services. With this incredible journey that you've gone on, what do you think now, given that you have prioritised your husband, your lifestyle, your new business, JMJ, what do you think success now means to you?
Well, to me, as far as I'm concerned now, I'm living that success because of my why and the change in direction that I took the business in. We now lead a debt-free lifestyle and have done for 8 years, nearly 9 years. No credit cards. The business provides everything that we need. We own our home, we own our cars, we own everything. And it's taught me that success doesn't mean the princess in the palace getting the handsome prince at the end of the story. You know, which when we're little girls growing up in the 60s, all we want to do is grow up and marry a handsome man and be rich and have, you know, all these wonderful things. But in real life, that only happens to some. It's not a journey that everybody gets to go on and experience. And I learned very quickly that wasn't going to be success for me. Success was going to be more time spent with my husband, helping him, not having to worry about money or finances anymore, doing what I absolutely love doing, which is running the business and helping people. And I'm involved in our local community and doing a number of things that are helping them grow from what they have into something else. To me, that's success. It's not millions of dollars. I have no aspirations to be an Elon Musk or anything like that. Success is getting out in the garden on the weekend. Success is being able to turn the phone off at 6 o'clock and not feel guilty about it. And I think that's being able to shut off and stop work and down tools when you need to is more important than working, you know, 14-hour days, which I did in the very beginning of JMJ, which was just ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous.
And that journey that you're describing, where you're doing crazy hours at the beginning, many people talk about that when they start their small business, because it's a big part of setting it up and building your business. But I love how you're talking about how now it's the time with your husband, it's the debt-free lifestyle, it's the being able to go in the garden, stopping work at 6 o'clock. Success is very much having that freedom, is what I'm hearing, to live the lifestyle that you've built and that you've chosen to have. And it's having the time to help the community and all of the other elements that you're talking about. And as I also heard in there, doing something that you love. So doing the work that you love, which gives you the money to then have this debt-free lifestyle and all of that. Given that it's such an incredible journey from, EA and quality and safety and office manager and all the different roles to setting up your own business, J&J, congratulations on that. Working those 14-hour days at the beginning and then coming, after a few years, coming to this place now. I'm sure everybody, and I'm fascinated to hear, what were some of the changes or the mindset tips that you want to share with people about how they can possibly do this themselves?
Well, I think my biggest tip is that the sky is never falling. And it took me many, many years to learn that. And that is somebody else's urgency, got to do it now, would come back onto me. And because I have a servant's heart, I would do it. Whatever time of night it was, I would do the work. Then one day it just dawned on me, that's not the sky is falling. That's not I've been shipped off to Siberia, or I've been sent to the wrong country, or the flights are wrong, or something like that. This is just somebody else saying to me, I want this done now because I want it doing now. And that was the biggest mind shift I had to make, was say no. Saying no is so hard. It's as hard as saying thank you sometimes for, the work that people do. But saying no was the hardest thing for me, because I don't like to say no. Since I was a child, have had this need to be liked, and for people to be friends with and have advocates, and all these are things I craved as a child. So I brought it into my adult life, which made the biggest crutch for the business. So I stopped doing that and I started saying no, and things just changed for the better.
I hear this a lot, especially with women, around boundaries. And you're describing one of the hardest boundaries I know for women, and especially women entrepreneurs, to say no, but also, I guess, in the workplace. You described it really well. Not doing something doesn't mean somebody's about to be, I loved your example, shipped off to Siberia, or life or death, etc. And I interestingly, I had the same kind of realization a few years ago now, about that it wasn't a life or death situation if things were going wrong and not working out in the way that the plan or the executive or the senior team expected, that we would work through it, that things would carry on and we would work through it. But how we worked through it, whether we worked through it with the Chicken Little, the sky's falling down, which is how many people reacting to it were reacting, and then putting the impetus on myself and my teams, or whether we went, no, it will get done, I'll let you know when it gets done, and not taking on that energy or that, urgency that the other person is trying to pass on to you. And I think that you describe it really well, how it can be challenging at first, but especially women, but everybody, to say no and to have those kinds of boundaries around, this is what I'll do, and then I'll update you at this time, and we'll try and get it done as soon as we can. But we're expecting it tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, rather than, as you were saying, working late, working long hours, etc., to get it done. And I really hear how much of a change and a shift it was for you to learn how to say no.
It was. I actually have a little story, if I can share that. I remember, and I was only thinking about this the other day after listening to one of your TV programs, and this gentleman was talking about bullying, and I had forgotten all about this episode when I was a child, and then it took me back to, oh my gosh, is that the moment I grew a pair? Is that the moment that I thought I can be bigger and stronger than what I'm led to believe? As a child in primary school, we were a poor family, and every night a boy who lived 2 doors down from us, he used to hide somewhere on the journey home, and he used to give me a bit of a beating, give me a bit of a hiding. Now I look back and think what he must have been going through at home to be transferring those feelings to me. But for years of my primary school, I was terrified of the walk home. I'd tried different ways home, but he seemed to know which way I was going. So one day, he and some friends were playing with the kids next door, and they kicked a football into our yard. And I don't know why I did this, but I said to my sister, grab the football and run. Like, I might as well have been cutting my own throat at this time. She grabbed the football and ran round the side of the house, and he came into our yard and he started to bully me and tell me what he was going to do if he didn't get the football back. So what I did, because we had a low-lying fence, I pushed him immediately. I can remember now, my skin's tickling. I can remember the fear I felt pushing him back and saying, no, you don't get to bully me anymore. And I pushed him one more time, and he fell over backwards over the fence. And his friends laughed at him, and I was thinking, now I have really done it. I was petrified of the ramifications that were going to come out of me pushing this kid back after all these years. He never, ever hit me again, never bullied me verbally again, never put me down again. And I stood up and I said, no, I'm not going to take this anymore. And I think when I look back now, that was probably my first mindset shift for the better, to make the changes that I needed to make as a child to be able to get to school safely and come home safely.
What an amazing story. And I'm so glad that the show the other day that you watched prompted it for you and reminded you of where you went through such a profound shift of, after years and years of going through that, what sounds like a terrible bullying and being hit by the kid every day on the way home, and also living, I really hear about living in that terror and trying different ways of getting home and trying different ways to stop it, and the helplessness you must have felt of not being able to stop what you knew was coming, all the way through to something in that moment of saying to your sister to run off with the ball and to go, no, enough is enough. And then when he's there in front of you, pushing him and having him fall back and his friends laugh at him. I really hear what was born in you that day, that that courage that was born in you, and all the years later when you were then implementing in a way that habit again, when we were talking about boundaries and saying no. So you described so beautifully what most people's lives are like, in that people, me included, people can let things happen to ourselves, to myself, and we can let it go on and on and on for a period of time. And then there is something that there comes a point where you just kind of go, no, enough is enough. And if you look back on it, and I'm sure if we had more time than the show allows, but we would see many other, because you strike me as a very strong person. Somebody caring for their partner, their husband, is a strong person. So I'm sure there'd be other similar examples where you have built that habit of being accommodating to a point. And even with your job, when you were describing they took away the parking, I really got that you were being accommodating to a point, and then that was one of those final straws. And the same with that bully, you kind of went, no, you're coming into my home environment now with your ball, and that's not acceptable, so I'm going to put a stop to it now. But what power, what courage, Jacqui. I really applaud what you have been sharing in that story.
Thanks, Michele. I've never told anybody that story before, except my sister. I had forgotten all about it until listening to the last a TV interview that you did. And I think it's one that I'm going to share with my grandchildren because it's survival. To be successful, you need to survive, and you need to overcome, and you need to have your head in the right space to do that. And we need tools to help us do that, like your programs and what you teach. And professional development is a huge part of being successful and owning a business and continually learning. And I think some of us forget that, oh, we're here now, we don't need to do anything else, we just coast along. And then things fall off the rails and we wonder what on earth happened. We just forgot to keep up with the times. We forgot to keep learning. We forgot to keep developing ourselves, and developing our mindset is so important to success, whatever success is for you, for everybody else.
I really appreciate what you're saying, because it's such a key point that not everybody gets, especially people that may have left schooling after high school or left schooling after university. Many people seem to think that that's all the schooling that they kind of need, until their boss or somebody in the workplace says, you must now go do this other schooling. And you're exactly right, this important point about recognizing your skills and areas that you may need to work on. That is an ongoing journey. It's an ongoing process that, and I'm so grateful that you've seen the show the other day. It was Daniel Mercer. He's quite well known about his work he does with schools and bullying, and his business is all around getting your monkeys off of your back. So the monkeys are the bullying and the bad habits. But that professional or personal development is an ongoing, lifelong thing. And I think that whatever wonderful way that the universe kind of colluded to support you in moving out of a successful career that you described into JMJ and building a whole new life. And I don't need to know what age, but I'm sure it was a little bit older than, a university or a high school graduate, that you then reinvented yourself. So you're such a wonderful example, and these suggestions that you're making are wonderful examples of those insights that can come from doing a little bit more self-development or personal development.
Thanks, Michele. I think also like when I decided that I wanted to make office work or business admin a career, I was 17. And I decided to go back to school, to the place where I had some of the most miserable years of my life, to learn a new skill that I would one day use to be something different, get out of the town that I grew up in, because that was very polarizing, and we moved to Melbourne, and I got married, had children, got my first job working in an office. And I got to be me with real people that didn't know who I was as a child. There was no stigma attached. They didn't know I'd been poor as a child. They didn't know I'd been bullied as a child. They knew me now. And that made the difference, because then I could be myself and not worry about what other people thought about me. So once you get that monkey off your back, that mindset that keeps dragging you down because you're so worried about how other people perceive you, what if you say the wrong thing, what if you do the wrong thing. And then after years and years in different jobs, in the last job, my director once introduced me to the president of an offshore company as this is Jacqui. She tells me to sit, I sit. She tells me to stand, I stand. Well, I think in that moment, I had made it. That was success in my corporate career, because he was putting value on my contribution to the business. He was not playing me down as she's just the EA and books the diary entries and she'll talk to your people and so on. He was giving me worth, and in his own way thanking me for my contribution to the business. And wins like that help you develop and change your mindset to go, now what else can I do? If he says that to that person, what can I do next? So it's an endless, for me, it was an endless game of changing my mindset to push myself further to do something further out of my comfort zone.
And you can't get much further out of your comfort zone than sitting on a train with a big bunch of flowers, like you mentioned. I love that image as well. I can just see you going, oh, well, what am I going to do now? I love that absolute image. And what you did was you took on that confidence that had been building and moved into J&J, and then built and built and built from there. Jacqui, if people were wanting to get hold of you to talk to you some more or to find out some more about the business, what's the best way of contacting you?
Oh, LinkedIn. They can catch me on LinkedIn, Jacqui James, JACQUI, or they can reach out if they like to use Instagram. They'll find me as Jacqui James on Instagram as well. So I use the Instagram platform to share more of my personal life so people can see more of who I am, not just what I want to share with the world.
Yeah, of course. And I love this question, given, you know, the bullying and the poverty and the wonderful parts of your story that you've shared, and also the wonderful suggestions around saying no and standing up to bullying and the boundaries, and celebrating, like you were sharing with the director, when people support you and recognize your great skills. With all of that mixture, what would you say then is some advice that you might give to your younger self?
Listen to the older generation. When we're young, we don't do that. We don't have time for them. But we forget they've been there and they've done that. They've experienced all the rubbish that life has to throw at them, and they've turned it around and they've made the very best of it for them. I wished I had listened more to my grandparents, to my aunts and my uncles. And now I find I struggle to impart what wisdom I have on my children and anybody else who wants to listen. And I'm of that older generation now. So it's crickets to some of them sometimes. So that would be it. You know, don't reinvent the wheel. You don't need to. It's already been invented, just in different forms. So reach out to those that have been there and done that.
And I think that is wonderful, wonderful advice about listening and listening to advice from people that have been around a bit longer, and also from experts and people that may be working in an area that you'd like to be in, and just listening. I think that's a timeless piece of advice to your younger self, Jacqui. And thank you so, so much for coming on the show today. It's been an absolute pleasure having this chat with you.
Thanks, Michelle. I've absolutely loved it. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
And to everybody watching out there, we really appreciate all of the wonderful feedback and messages and emails telling us about how much you appreciate experts like Jacqui coming on the show and sharing their stories and sharing their insights. And for now, from my heart to your heart, be great, be fabulous, and be you.